Hi everyone, it's Nono here. Today we have a recurrent guest. So he's the first person on the podcast that repeats. Is José Luis García del Castillo. We're just having an informal chat to catch up because we haven't seen each other physically for a long time. And I hope you get some insights from his experience over the last years teaching, his recent efforts into teaching online and being a YouTuber or live streaming, and some other things that have to do with feeling guilty about the things that you would like to do but you don't get around doing, and some other things that you might find interesting about our creative process and other things that we're curious about. Without further ado, I hope you enjoy it. Hello, José Luis. We're here today in my hometown. So I had the luck for him to drop by for a few days. And I just wanted to catch up with you and see how everything has changed since the last time we talked. I think it was episode number 3.
You mean last week? You mean talk as in podcast-wise?
Exactly. We've been catching up for this, I don't know if it's been 3 years already, more or less.
I think your first ever podcast was about, 3 years ago, probably.
That was December 2017. When we last talked, you were working on Machina, on a robotics library and stuff. I have some notes here.
Oh my God.
And you were working on your thesis.
Mm-hmm.
You were writing code and also trying to think about what you were going to write in this document that you submitted.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing I would love to hear from you is, how has your life changed after you submitted your thesis, and how is life different after you finished?
Well, it's very different in that I do have a life now, which is the big change, I think. It's hard to describe what 4 years of thinking about the same thing constantly, or every day during the week, every weekend, and trying to make a change, how that feels. But once you have the luxury or the opportunity to just wrap it up and close the chapter and say like, oh, well, this could go on forever because these are things that I'm interested in and that I will be researching for life. But at some point you have to wrap it up, give it closure, end the chapter and be like, okay, this is what I think should be said right now. This is what things that I think must be done to prove my point. And wrapping it up in the form of a dissertation is a huge effort, but it was also very challenging, but it was very grateful at the same time, because when you finish the writing and then you go back and it's like, oh, actually, you know what? This whole thing makes sense. And I think I stand for all the values and all the points that I wrote in this document, and I would defend them, not just in my dissertation, in my thesis defense, but like publicly in conversations. It's things that I do believe in truthfully and deeply. There's something warming and something that gives purpose to all those 4 years of effort. And at the same time, because you close the chapter, doesn't mean that you stop being interested in those things or that you don't want to keep researching on them. But it opens up for the possibility of considering that there are other ways of maintaining those interests and trying to contribute to the community and trying to give back, which are not maybe just writing a 200-page document, but other things. When I finished my dissertation, I took a vacation. I went to Southeast Asia and I traveled for 6 weeks. Remember when we could travel back in those times? So I traveled for 6 weeks in Southeast Asia. I went to a friend's wedding in Thailand. I visited many countries. It was probably another thing that made the whole doctoral journey worth it. And when I came back, I retook my job at Autodesk, and I was working there for a few months in a new initiative that you know very well. I was working there for a few months, and luckily I had a chance. I was offered an opportunity to go back to the Harvard Graduate School of Design and teach one of probably what has been my favorite class, my favorite course ever in history, the Introduction to Computational Design class, which was taught by Professor Panayotis Mikalatos at the time, and it had been taught by him for at least 9 years, but he was not going to be teaching it anymore, and he had been my long-time advisor and thesis and mentor. So I was given that opportunity. I just couldn't turn it down. So We tried to make it work with Autodesk, but we couldn't find a good formula. And I ended up deciding to just take this opportunity and go back to school full time. So now I've been teaching that class for 2 years, 2 consecutive years, on top of 2 other large courses, structural design, which comes back from my structural engineer experience when I was here working in Spain. And another course, a small seminar that is more of an advanced research seminar that is called Enactive Design. And it's a human-machine interaction course that stems a lot from the ideas and research that I did for my dissertation. So that's been an incredible journey. It's been a lot of work to prepare all those classes and put them together from scratch. But now that there's an inertia and they're working and the pieces are in the right place, now I'm starting to lift my head again and be like, okay, what's next? What is the next thing that I would like to do and I would like to say? So that's where I am right now, a little bit.
So one of the things that I would highlight, you managed to somehow share that class that you really like teaching online. So you made a YouTube playlist so anyone can go and watch that. And we'll paste a link to that course on the show notes. How has that changed the way you teach, and what did that lead to?
For context, for people who may not be familiar with that, as you just mentioned, what we did was literally the week before I started the first class, the first lecture on that new course, the Introduction to Computational Design. I decided I've always been a huge advocate of open source code, but also open source culture. So I decided to make as much of that class as open source as we could. It took quite some logistics and some infrastructure, but we managed to record live all the lectures and to put a lot of the material that we prepare for the class, to put it up there available online for everyone. And we created a YouTube playlist, which is what you just referred to, with all the material for the class. And it's out there, it's on YouTube. A lot of people are watching it. I think right now it has 60,000 views or something like that, which I would have never imagined. I would not imagine that there are 60,000 people in the world interested in that.
And there may be like 100 students in that class?
It's been an average of 70 students per iteration. Yeah, last year and this year, which we just concluded. The final was 2 days ago. That's also been a huge journey, not only making it possible technically, but thinking about what that meant in terms of contributing to the community and how that relates to the fact that the course is part of Harvard University's curriculums, is part of what we teach at the Graduate School of Design. And I think the decision was very clear from the very beginning, which is literally anything, most of what we teach, it's not, I don't know how to say this, it's not private. No, everything that we teach in the class is basically things that you could learn by buying the right books, reading them, watching tutorials online. There's nothing really new. It's very consolidated knowledge. The only thing that we've done in the class is just like wrap it and bundle it in a way that is more catered towards people in the creative community, and especially people who are interested in the built environment, because it's an architecture school. But it's design in general, and it's a lot of computational geometry, it's a lot of writing computer software, things that are common knowledge these days, and it's very readily available. So we're not really saying anything new. So that's why all the knowledge and all the lectures, we felt very comfortable putting them up online and making them open source. There was the fear, but perhaps initially by myself, honestly, but also by a lot of members from other communities. There was the fear of, if you're putting all of this online, then people are going to watch it, and then it's going to feel like they took the class, and then they're never going to come to Harvard. But then very immediately, all of us, the team, myself, we realized that I don't think that's how things work these days. And modern culture, if you have access to all this knowledge, the only thing that is going to make is to actually want to wish you more that you were part of that experience. And it is the experience of taking the class. And it is the experience of working in the assignments with myself, working in the assignments with my teaching staff, working in the final project within the framework of the class, being able to exhibit that project in the final review, in the open show and tell that you have very kindly attended this year, for example. It is that experience that we just cannot provide yet. And it is that experience that I am now, we thought was going to be the attractive thing. And I am now realizing that so many people are reaching out to me like, hey, how can I participate more? How can I do more? How can I be part of this? Right now, the only way is to come to Boston and hopefully enroll in the class. I can't talk much about that, but we are starting to discuss plans on how to change that. And very soon, there might be a new model of how we can make this class more available and more participatory for people outside the university. But I can't talk much more about that right now.
So what brought you, or how did this end in or segue into live streaming?
You know how they say in English, when life gives you lemons, you have to make lemonade. So literally like 2 weeks into the full lockdown, the first one with the pandemic, I was like, I've been meaning to record tutorials. I've been meaning to make online content available in a more focused way, in a more dedicated way. Not just record my lectures and put them online, but record online material explicitly. And I've always had excuses about why not to do that. I'm finishing my doctorate, I have a full-time job, I'm on vacation, blah, blah, blah. So at some point during the pandemic, all those excuses just felt empty. And literally, I went online. I woke up this morning and I went online. I bought a chroma, a green screen. I bought a couple microphones and I was like, okay, it's happening this weekend. Whatever it is, it's gonna be this weekend. And I took up an old project from 2010, 2011 that was called ParametricCamp. It was an organization that I co-founded with my brother. And we spent 2 or 3 years touring Spain and touring Europe during the summer, and then just giving in-person workshops on parametric design and parametric modeling. But then we stopped there because life got in the way and we got busy with other things. I took up that project, which I had always wanted to turn into a more digital, more online thing. And I used that as the framework to create a new YouTube channel, which is now called ParametricCamp, that I'm using to just record material on computational design. It's been great because I also had a super strong role model of how I wanted it to start. I'm a huge fan of Daniel Schiffman, everybody who knows. I'm a huge fan of his work with the coding train. So literally when I started, it was like, I'm gonna just follow the coding train model. I'm going to go live. I know I want to record a tutorial on whatever topic. So I'm just going to record the tutorial while live with all these people from the community participating, chatting, being part of the experience. And then we will just edit it, chop it, blah, 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 and put it in a more consumable, more streamlined format. And I also started with the model that he has, which is let's do coding challenges, let's do like theme. But soon I started like finding, so that was great. That was a great start. And then very soon after, as I started realizing what kind of content I wanted to record and what the community was asking me to do, I started finding my own voice, particularly about the things that I was interested in. A lot of computational geometry, 3D form, and frameworks that Daniel doesn't touch on his channel. So we started creating like dedicated playlists and models, and now I'm super happy about it. It's great. It's picking up. It's getting a lot of momentum. We have a lot of followers. We have a lot of people who just DM me like, this is great. This is what I've been looking for a long time. Thank you for making this accessible, etc.
Where is the community? Where does the community live?
In the world. Mostly we do interact through I do live streams on YouTube, and we have a lot of interaction over the chat. While I'm streaming, I'm recording something, and then somebody gives me a suggestion on the chat, like, oh, have you thought of doing this in this way? And I was like, oh, that's actually good. Let me go back and record that again, incorporating that feedback. That is great. I love to do that. And then we have a Discord server where we have offline conversations during the week and where I announce what we're going to be recording in the weekend, etc. We have conversations, people talk to each other, code questions, sharing their work. It's really nice. That's mostly where people maintain the conversation. We also have an Instagram where I post when are we live streaming, and sometimes I post like videos or nerdy memes or that kind of stuff.
Why do you teach?
I think we've talked about this before. I think it's just, for me, it's the way that I feel I can make a change in the world and that I can make a change on people. There's a lot of people out there who are very community oriented, who advocate for social issues, who fight for causes they believe in. They have all my respect, and I wish I was like them. But I think that the way I feel I have an impact in society and I have an impact in communities is through teaching. And I'm not sure if it's because I consider I don't do a terrible job at it, or because since it's my profession and I work with humans, and once we work together for 4 months, I can see in a very tangible, very direct way the change that I have made in those people from 4 months ago to what they can do now and how happy they feel about the things that I've been able to convey to them. I have not had a job or I have not had an activity in my life that had given me such a direct feedback, positive feedback on how I was contributing.
Usually in the course of 3 months. Courses tend to be 3 to 4 months.
3 months, 4 months. But now I'm finding new models. Like I advise students at the university for much longer in their own independent thesis projects. I also, through my online presence, YouTube, ParametricCamp, all of those, I also get a lot of feedback from just people that I have never met in the real world physically, but who are following and who are very grateful of the material that we put out there. So I don't know. It's definitely not for the money.
Do you have a specific process that you use to prepare your lectures?
Yes. I try to remember who I was when I had no idea what I was doing and who I was when I had no technical skills. And I try to put myself in the shoes of someone who just is learning and doesn't have this experience. And I try to just figure out how to phrase things in a way that are understandable without a background. I also try to reduce abstraction levels. It's very common when you're doing computer programming to work with abstractions. And I find that, at least with the communities that I work with, they're not typically trained in understanding abstraction models of reality. They like simple examples, plain English. Those work much better than other models. And I don't know, simple tricks.
Can you share an example of an abstraction that you think might make it harder for somebody to understand something?
As useful and as the dominating paradigm today is object-oriented programming, it's great, it's everywhere, and I use it all the time. Yet, it's basically creating a high-level abstraction over a model of working with data that could be very tediously implemented without it. So explaining why it makes sense and why students should invest in creating classes and objects and a hierarchy of object models, because they will very soon get the rewards of that investment, it's sometimes very difficult to convey, just because it's not very tangible from a computer science perspective. That's one that I struggle with a little bit. And also, I have my own opinions about how certain computer programming languages implement. So the design of object-oriented, I'm not sure I would have done it that way, because it can be confusing for beginners. Maybe it's the time to invent a new programming language. I don't know.
One more?
One more, as if we don't have enough.
How does it feel to be a YouTuber?
I don't feel I'm a YouTuber. I feel I'm the exact same person, and that I'm doing the exact same thing that I do when I'm in school or when I was doing ParametricCamp in person. It's just the same thing. It's just I'm doing it with a computer, with a webcam, and with a lot of software back in it now. That's the only difference. Because, and this is what I'm very thankful about, I have recorded a lot of content just looking at myself on a screen, and that is very different. But because I have the opportunity of doing this live, and I consistently have a community of people who connect. I barely know them, but I'm actually getting to know them. And they systematically, consistently connect, and they share that time with me, which I'm so grateful about. It makes me feel that I am with people, because I am with people. I am with humans and I'm talking to them. It's just a new model of how that works. So it's not that different, honestly.
Yeah, I don't want to get too technical talking about your live stream setup and things like that, but what are some of the tools that are making teaching easier for you?
First of all, OBS has been a game changer. Open broadcasting system or software or something like that. That's been a game changer just because it's so versatile and so fast and so it's just great. It's so great. And connecting it to Zoom or Google Meet or any other online teaching platforms, it's just a game changer. It's been really, really great.
It is open source.
It is open source, yes.
I think it's also easier to connect it on Windows.
I think the new Mac version also has the live streaming webcam thing. Zoom's been getting a lot of heat lately, but I have to say I enjoy it a lot and I think it works great. And I think all the features that they're bringing in, like breakout rooms, people moving around them, all those things are actually helping a lot make the teaching online much easier. I wish they rolled out more of those more often, faster. But I also understand that anything that they do changes like millions of people's experience. So they should be careful about that. And also something that I've been starting to do, that I started doing recently, is that many of the live streams that I do and many of the recordings of the tutorials that I record, I do it also with the secret agenda of using that content at some point as support material for my in-person teaching or my online teaching. That was a new thing I did this year in my intro to computation class, and it has proven tremendously beneficial for all the students. I've gotten a lot of really good feedback out of that. And so I plan on doing much more of that, actually.
What are some things that you would like to do that you don't have the time to do at the moment?
I would love to travel. And I've just been getting more and more into scuba diving, free diving, spearfishing, all those things. And it's just not very possible right now. Something that I would like to do, and I can't talk about that much also yet, but I already have my New Year's resolutions, actually. And because I don't know if we should say this, but we're recording this in late December, still not 2021. But I do have all my New Year's resolutions planned already. And one of them is to engage more in personal projects. So research personal projects like I used to do when I was doing my doctorate. And very specially to use those projects as vehicles for using and improving a lot of the tools that I have contributed to the community. So for example, the Robot Ex Machina framework for real-time robot control, many of the Grasshopper plugins that I've written, I would like to find projects and engage in projects that use them and give me the excuse to test them out, which unfortunately I haven't that much, to improve them and to make them even better. But also, and especially, finding time to think about creative projects that explore all these ideas.
And I wanted to know as well. So you've been living in the US for a long time now.
A quarter of my life, yes.
Would you see yourself being able to come back to Spain at any point and continue doing what you're doing?
That's a difficult question. Because, first of all, I don't think I live in the US. I do live, very particularly, I live in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which is right next to Boston. And I live in a very particular community of academics, international people. It's a very different world from perhaps the general US. So I chose to live there because I like that particular community and I like the people that fly through that community. Not many people are permanent there because they just come, they do their thing and they leave. That's unfortunate, but it's also not very representative of what the general US is, for the good or the bad. I'm not sure about that. Now, I wish I could find more of those pockets of communities in the world because I appreciate them. And I have some candidates, but I'm not sure how much of what I do now I could be doing either in those communities or back here in Spain. The university system is very different here, and I think it would take me a while. It would take me some time to build an infrastructure in any organization, any university here in Spain that would allow me the freedom and would allow me the flexibility to design curriculums and to design knowledge the way I do it right now in the US. Although I can say that is changing and that maybe very soon those words that I just said will be rendered obsolete. I'm crossing fingers. That's the case. Similarly, just as you were asking me, the things that I do now are changing, and I'm putting a lot of energy in my online presence, online communities, YouTube, etc., etc. And thankfully, that is something that could happen from anywhere in the world. So maybe if that grows larger, or if that becomes a larger part of what I do in my daily life, then maybe that could change and I could do that from anywhere in the world. Why not? And I would definitely love to come back to Spain at some point, temporarily or for good. I have a lot of good things here that I miss.
All right. I ran out of questions. I have to say, to disclose, we didn't really prepare this meeting or this chat that much. So this is just two friends catching up in a bit of a more formal way, I would say, than we do. And you guys all know it's really hard to catch up online these days. And with the time difference for us, it's even harder. So we have some time here that we can talk about whatever you want.
You say this has been friends catching up, but this has been quite unidirectional. What about Nono Martínez Alonso? What has he been up to since we last talked?
That was a while ago. So we did record a podcast that you interviewed me. So that was, I think, episode 25. And I commented a lot of the origins of this podcast and things like that. So for those who don't know about it and curious, you can go back to that episode. It's a lengthy one. But so far, I think for the last 3 years, there's one thing that stuck with me is that I have continued with this project, so the podcast. I continue working at Autodesk as my full-time job, even though I joined for the last year and a half, I think, or a bit more, an initiative that is intended to accelerate a bit the machine learning and artificial intelligence developments inside of the teams that are close to programs like Dynamo and Revit. But as I like to say, I think what keeps defining myself a bit more is my curiosity to keep making content. I have becoming really good at adding more commitments to myself that then it's harder and harder to meet. And some of them I've mentioned before in the podcast that have to do with like keep interviewing people that I had to switch to remote calls because of the current situation. Is really hard now, but also made me go into that medium that is a good thing. I can reach out to more people. I'm writing more, keep publishing sketches online and stories. So I try to do that at least once a week. I'm trying to become better at editing less and publishing more quickly. So I write a lot every day, but then I have to do that process of reviewing and editing, which is a bit tedious. It's harder to publish like 500 words than it is to write 10,000, at least for me. I know you work a bit differently in those terms. I know that you like to, everything you write is like, has to be perfect and prefer not to go back. And the other thing, I also started recording videos online and trying live streaming. For me, I think I didn't really especially want to focus on machine learning necessarily, but I have started there because it's a place where I'm comfortable and I have a clear intention that I want to learn more on that field. So I use this space of time for me to tinker. I like to see it as a 1, 2, 3, 4 hour block of time I reserve for myself every week, where I'm going to try to learn and explore or test something that is in the back of my mind that I want to tinker with. It has to be with code design or anything. And I invite people as well to join me. I'm surprised that I haven't really been announcing it that much, but I would like to thank publicly. There's 3 true fans already there that recurrently visit the channel and pay attention and enjoy the content. 3 or 4 people, I would say, which is great. I'm just getting started. I do this because I didn't stay in Cambridge to pursue a more academic track or something like that. But I have an inherent interest on teaching as well and learning myself and trying to share that knowledge with others. In part of the podcast has more to do with learning how to live a more meaningful life. In the technical side has to be with like tinkering with creative projects. And if there's something that defines me would be that aspect or that component of wanting to create and learn more. I reread a quote the other day that I really liked. Let's see if I remember it, from Anne Lamott in the book Bird by Bird. And it said that the reason why she was writing, or what us, right? Like in every epoch, there has been people, quote unquote, like us, right? People who are curious, who are creative and want to make something. And there will always be. The quote from Anne Lamott says, "I don't mean to sound dramatic, but clearly the dark side is rising. Things could not have been more odd and frightening in the Middle Ages. But the tradition of artists will continue no matter what form the society takes. And this is another reason to write. People need us. To mirror for them and for each other without distortion. Not to look around and say, 'Look at ourselves, you idiots,' but to say, 'This is who we are.'" I like the part of like, this is who we are. I don't think we do this to say, whoa, look at how cool this is, what we can do. Anyone can do that. It's about you trying to express yourself, opening up a bit. Can be really personal, it can be a bit less personal, it can be more informal in any way that you feel that you want to do that. But I think it's about, look at me, I'm doing this, you can do it as well, and trying to inspire other people to think it around, to try it, to think it. And it was hard for me. It took me exactly 7 years to be able to write something and publish it. And even if I wasn't feeling comfortable, just say, okay, I don't care. This is going to go automatically to so many platforms. Random people are going to click it. Nobody, like maybe 1% of them or 3% of them will tell me that they've read it, right? I didn't know. So when you create something, you put a piece of content out there and then publish it, then the piece stops being yours. It's out there in the world and it's for other people to read, to see, to watch, to comment, and to look at. And it's really random in some way how people reach out to you through different mediums, as you said, DM, like direct messages. But that one comment that from time to time a reader sends back and says, oh, this is the best story I've read of you or something, that means, oh, this person has maybe been reading a few of them. I didn't even know this person existed. Or I found this episode really inspiring and it's been helping me learn this and that thing. Or I don't know, it was really inspiring and keep up the episodes or keep up the interviews. That gives you some reinforcement. I don't think you should focus your entire work around that, but I think that that adds a sense of meaning. In some way, I believe, at least I do this for myself, to learn about myself and learn and just try to be more clear about what I want. But also that engagement with other people is what makes it a lot more meaningful.
I learned that from Ben Fry. Like I had huge fear to publishing. I had huge fear. What are people going to say? Are they going to criticize me? They're going to be like, oh, this is not good. Look at this guy. And Ben was like, nope. Whatever you put out there, it's going to be good for someone. And if it's good for just one person in this world, you have made some good. And all those trolls who you think, which is totally a projection, but who you think are going to be like, oh, look at this guy, ha ha ha, he's writing this piece of la la la. Who cares about them in the first place? If they even exist. He gave me like a huge pep talk one day about that, and it changed me. And I'm very grateful about that.
I really like an interview they did to Philip Glass. So Philip Glass, I have to say, is my top one composer. If I had to choose one artist to keep listening for the rest of my life, that will be him. He has this quote somewhere that he says, I have the I don't care what you think gene. So that's like a person who's creating for the sake of being himself and expressing himself, but not paying too much attention to what people say. Because it's not about the individual artifact that you put out there. It's about the compendium of things that you're doing. It's about the overarching career or path that you have. And somebody might just give you one opportunity, just one video, 1 minute of video, half an article, a sketch. And of course, you need to put your best work whenever you can out there. But I think somebody who wants to in some way judge or understand you has to look at the entire body and how it ties together. I'm saying this because sometimes I have an automation pipeline, and if I put a post and sketch on my blog, might be as silly as it can, it's going to go to many places, right? It's going to go to 200 or 400 people on the newsletters list, and it's going to go to LinkedIn, it's going to go to Instagram, and then suddenly I wake up, and if it's later than 10 a.m., it's gone. It's already sent. So whatever typos, whatever mistakes you did, formatting errors, whatever, that's already there, and you cannot fix it. And I think there is something comfortable about that, like saying, I'm going to put this up and I don't care. And I learned this not as directly as you from Ben Fry, from somebody who you know and you talk to, but from Seth Godin. He says that he's not the editing guy. He just writes and has somebody who like does typo corrections and final edits and stuff. And he publishes something every single day. Now he started podcasting every single Wednesday. So he has this recurrent thing. And it's a good way of thinking. Like I always think, if I were to publish this one 2,000 word essay a year, that will be what people will judge me for. Those 2,000 words, that's your writing once a year, that's it. But what if you publish every week or every day? Then 1, 2, 3, 4 bad, it doesn't matter. So it's more about the compendium. There might be, how did we get to here?
I don't know how we got here, but let me tell you how we're going to continue from here. Let's break down a few of the things that you've said before. You've been podcasting for 3 years already. How many episodes have you released?
This guy's going to give me a hard time.
Of course.
I have published only 40 episodes. It's not...
Did you say only?
Yes.
All right. I think that's quite a feat. It's more than once a month. And what have you learned from these 3 years and 40 episodes leading into the future? Or what would you like the Getting Simple podcast to evolve into after what you've learned from it?
Yes, I've experimented with many different formats. Something that has worked. Like I feel, so the podcast at the end is something that you put out there, and as everything you do in the creative field, you put it out there and you want people to listen to it, to pay attention in some way too, and hopefully also to get inspired by or benefit from. In the case of the podcast, I think there is a formula that is clear. It's like you interview somebody and that person has already a community, and then those people give you a try, and then they might get to you, or you just simply get this person because you think has something to share with the audience, and that person is going to tell it to other people. That's something I would like to do. Going into the future, I would like to interview more people online, spend less time editing, and that's something we're going to talk about later, about delegating. I'm guilty. I've edited 40 episodes already myself, which I shouldn't be doing. So one of the things is doing less of the repetitive work that I can collaborate with others and I don't have to do myself. Continue testing new formats. So I've been doing some formats in which a new format that I released an episode a few weeks ago, getting questions from the audience and then replying them live or replying them on an episode. Also sharing some of my sketches, stories as an audio podcast, so commenting, maybe augmenting a bit with more audio content, and also writing episodes or like scripts for episodes where I share workflows or ways that I do things. So what have I learned? I have learned that it's not that necessary to edit everything up to the last point. What people care is more about the overall thing. I've learned a lot of audio engineering, which I didn't really need to, but I also like that part.
What have you learned about these 40 human beings that you have opened up?
Yeah, there is something, I get into this world of things and I don't see from outside, and sometimes people help me get a bit more introspective from the outside and see what's going on. I think it was Roberto Molinos, I don't know who it was exactly, but it might be him. He said, I don't really know what the people you've interviewed share between each other, except for that you've identified people that love what they do, whatever that is. I've come to the conclusion that I tend to interview people who in some way or another I've learned that they enjoy what they do and want to share it with the world. I've felt also that many of us have the same insecurities. Time and productivity today seem to be like the worst problem that we have, a self-made problem. I've tried to also talk a lot about workflows and way of understanding life and success. I think in terms of success, which is something that probably wraps the life of all the guests that I've interviewed, not because they're like super successful, but because they have an understanding in some way or another of success. And for most of them, they were able to define success as something personal, something global that they measure on their own and not trying to compare themselves to others.
I have noticed you have said the sentence, I shouldn't be editing all these podcasts myself. I will get into why I'm curious about that, but what's behind that? Why do you think you shouldn't be doing this?
As a creative person, you try to learn the creative process or the craft that leads you to getting a product, right? It might be a drawing, a sketch, a story, an essay, an episode, a video. And I would be fooling myself if I can think that I can handle everything, every single part of the process. I can do an episode from beginning to start, but then I won't be able to do more sketches or do more writing or do more hours of work or things like this. There's only so much time in your week, 168 hours. That way, I think, at least for me, I need to do that. So the process of editing the entire podcast, editing the sketches and all that stuff, at least for a couple of times. So I understand the process, so I can establish the process, like the sound I like, the effects I like, the editing level I like, how I like to publish the things, how I like the images to look and all that stuff. After, maybe not 10, but after 20 something episodes, that was super clear. That was super clear to me. Like the effects are always the same, the editing workflow has changed a bit, and many of the things around the podcast are the same. But after some point in time, might be editing sketches, copy editing audio or video, that doesn't scale, right? That requires a lot of time. And I will definitely benefit from externalizing that work, collaborating with other creatives that can help me with that, and then focus on doing more interviews. That is, at the end of the day, the gist of the project. I haven't been able to release more episodes because it takes me somewhere from, if the episode is too short, 2 hours or 5, up to like 15 hours or 10 to produce an episode, which is contacting the guest, recording, editing, transcription, publication, preparation, and blah, blah, blah. Too many things.
Are you open to a perspective?
Yeah.
I told you that I have all my New Year resolutions planned already. One of them is I want to eliminate the word should from my life. This is going to be my 2021 purpose. Both for myself, I want to stop shooting myself, and I also want to stop shooting other people. And I've come to this because I think the word should is a very strange one, and it comes very often with a form of guilt and a form of imposition that is not really reflecting what you really want when you're shooting yourself or when you're shooting someone. From what I've heard from you, it sounds like when you started with the podcast, you were editing it because you wanted to, because it gave you pleasure, because you wanted to make decisions, design decisions, editorial decisions, etc. And now it sounds to me that after 10 podcasts, you have reached a state where you're comfortable with those and you don't want to spend more time editing that because you've reached the level that you want. And what you want is you want to record more podcasts and stop spending time on that. So my invitation for you and for maybe perhaps for the audience is anytime you were to use the word should, I shouldn't be editing my podcast. Maybe you can find a word that matches better what your intention is. Maybe you could have said, I don't want to edit more podcasts because I want to record more podcasts. Maybe you could have said, I don't need to record more podcasts because I already know what I want out of editing them. Sorry, I meant to say edit. And I think my underlying purpose with this is to raise self-awareness, because shooting hides what your purpose is, ultimately.
Maybe reminding you of the change that needs to be. For instance, I'm still to delegate this work to other people, or I haven't yet. Instead of I should do, I don't know. But yeah, no, I understand. Self-awareness is important. I think that is a big step, and I am self-aware, so that's at least good. Yeah, I've been thinking about this for a long time, delegating the podcast and all that stuff.
So maybe what's behind it is I want to delegate more. And the podcast is something that is ready to be delegated. The editing of the podcast, the technical aspect.
I'm talking to Dr. García del Castillo.
Getting simple therapy. That's what we do here.
Before we move on, what are some of the things that you're thinking on delegating or externalizing or collaborating?
I think my problem is not delegating. I'm getting better at that. But my problem is not delegating. My problem is accepting, coming to terms that things can be not absolutely exactly what I think they should be. That they can be different. And that's also fine. That I don't have to micromanage and get the exact result that I had in my mind. That's what my problem with delegating is. I delegate things, and then when I don't get exactly what I had in mind, then I freak out. And then I start micromanaging, and then the person who is helping me gets annoyed with all the reason in the world. And then I end up believing that I'm really bad at delegating, which is not true. What I'm really bad at is accepting that other people have their ways of doing things. And that they can accept my feedback, they can accept my guidance, and they can accept my requests. But it's never going to be entirely 100% the way I have the vision of. And that's fine. That is my problem with delegating.
And along those lines, I always think that's a process that every person has to go through. Every creative person that delegates work. There is always going to be, unless you're like super picky and you're like firing and getting another one and firing and getting another person until you find exactly what you want. You have to adapt yourself to what other people can provide you.
You're right. I just don't know if I am one of those ultra picky people or if everyone is like that. I only know myself. So I know that I am like that, but I don't know if this is a generalized situation or I just happen to be a control freak, which is probably the case anyway. So you've asked me before, how does it feel to be a YouTuber? Now I'm going to ask you, how does it feel to be a YouTuber? You just started, but you got a lot of traction already. And let me tell you, a lot of people from the communities that I move around, they've asked me a lot about you, bringing you to class, bringing you to the channel, bringing you as guest reviewer to the class, etc. So they know that you are the machine learning guy for creative stuff. How does it feel to be a YouTuber?
As you said, I'm just getting started. I think it feels weird for me because I have a full-time job, so I have to do this after hours. And when I'm live streaming, every single week, I've been going on for 10 weeks already or something like that. And I don't have a fixed schedule. Like I don't have a fixed time when I'm going to be doing this. I don't have 2 hours reserved every Thursday at the same time. I do have in mind that I'm going to do it every Thursday night, right? Which is morning in the US. It feels good, but I'm still, in that sense, I think I'm still a bit uncomfortable with announcing it too much when I'm not sure what it's going to happen, right? I'm trying to get comfortable with the uncertainty of going into a live stream where I'm going to be doing coding live and machine learning and stuff without anything prepared.
That's kind of surprising because the perception that I have from what I've seen in your live streams is that they're actually quite prepared and very polished, as opposed to what I do personally, which is I just show up and I start doing whatever.
I would say I try to, it calms me down a bit to prepare some slides and having an outline. I have more ideas on what to do that I can cover. Many times I go over time and then I only cover one point of a 5-bullet list. But yeah, overall feels good. I get many times I end up, it's 10 p.m. or 9 p.m. and I feel like, oh, it was crap. I should have done this today. Or I don't feel that rewarded. But then I wake up next day and say, oh, now I can extract some videos from here. I re-upload as separate tutorials. I think this is useful. I got some people tell me that they liked what they saw yesterday, whatever. So yeah, feels good. It's rewarding, definitely. And I think it's a good way to engage with the people that are getting started on the same field that I'm trying to specialize on. And I will say it feels really rewarding in the sense that I'm starting to get more and more comfortable with public speaking and presenting content and things like that. And I don't think we realize that, but I look back at some other presentations I've given before, even with full-fledged slides prepared and I know what I'm going to say and stuff. And I noticed how much more nervous I was before. That's one thing that has changed from 3 years ago to now. If you listen to the episodes, I think you can hear my voice, of course, younger, but a lot more nervous, which is good. That's one of the purposes of showing up often.
Speaking of machine learning, it sounds to me that professionally and also like career-wise and as a personal interest, you're getting deeper and deeper into the weeds of machine learning. What does machine learning for creative people look like in 5 years? And what will it look like in 10 years?
I cannot put a difference into 5 and 10 years, but I think for creative uses, the thing that is clear is that machine learning models are getting faster, lighter, more capable, and they're like developing at like a really fast basis. We're seeing models that before took seconds or some time to execute like a prediction, and now they are able to do 140 frames per second, right? Like 140 predictions or inferences per second. This, of course, has helped self-driving cars and other technologies, but what I see on the design field is that many manual tasks that we were doing before are being automated. That's the first logical path. Is like we're automating many things. Like for me, editing podcasts, for instance, I consider that as a creative task, not on the AC world or more like artsy stuff, but it lets me edit a lot faster. I remove filler words automatically, remove long silences, and transcribe automatically conversations, and edit by copy pasting different paragraphs. What I see on the field as well is that it's easier than ever to ship models into your phone and embed it into an application or in a web app on a website that you can interact without knowing any code. You can even train machine learning models without knowing anything that has to do with code, so you can drag and drop a folder. So what I envision is that we're going to get a lot more little interactions that for us are just going to feel like nice automations inside of an app. We're not going to necessarily know that they're machine learning based, and they're going to be able to be customized with our data in a matter of like minutes or hours. So we will skip a lot of the things that previous professionals were being paid for. We're going to skip things like, I don't know, processing like thousands of PDFs manually just to annotate how many drawings are per each sheet, or things like recognizing what's on a photo that you took at the building site or things like that. I don't know. I don't have a specific things that I can tell you. New companies are appearing that are going to be based just on this, on adding new functionalities for your daily tasks around creation, so content generation. And many others that already have software are trying to implement little nice features that are going to save your time and allow you to work in a completely different way.
Oh, wait, no, hold on. Sorry to interrupt you, but I'm just checking the Getting Simple podcast inbox. And turns out you have 3 emails from Kevin Kelly, from Ray Kurzweil, and from Stephen Johnson. And they all want you to write a book together with them. Which one would you choose? Who would you like to write a book with?
I would say I'd be in between Stephen Johnson and Kevin Kelly. I think Kevin suits more my trajectory, like what I'm trying to specialize more in technology. But I really like the way that Stephen Johnson introspects on the process of humans to make decisions, important decisions, and to generate ideas. I would say some of his latest books are really in line with what Originals by Adam Grant talks about, like how to generate more original ideas. He mentioned more original ideas instead of creative. But I think, Kevin Kelly, probably.
He's asking for a title.
I don't know, maybe something along the lines of 10 ways in which machine learning is going to enhance your creative life.
What machine learning wants.
10 ways in which AI will simplify your creative life. I don't know. I think
the 10 rules for the new machine learning. No. What is
Laws of Simplicity? John Maeda.
Maybe John. Do we have an email from John? Would you like to write a book with John?
I personally think I need to start reaching out to some of these people, because I think I'm more afraid of the no's than they will probably say yes or be willing to have a quick chat for the podcast. These are people I would love to hear more from. What would you say to somebody who is just getting started with teaching? Might be online teaching or trying to get into a university or learning how to explain things to other people.
Where do I start? First of all, be patient. That's by far the most important thing in the world. And understand that you're working with people who do not know what you're teaching them. That's the whole purpose of teaching. It's very easy to give for granted that something is very easy to do or very straightforward to understand, and it's not. Period. That's how it works. Don't be overambitious and try to cram in your curriculum like the 17 different frameworks and the 14 algorithms. It's better to learn half of what you wanted, but better than just be overambitious and create anxiety on your students. Because what you do is you create anxiety if you expect them to learn faster than they can or more than it's reasonable.
What are some books that you've recently enjoyed or that you're recommending a lot, maybe to your students or to friends?
I have to say I've been terrible at reading things lately. I've only read things for fun. I think that's also what's stemming out of finishing my doctorate. Like, I have not read knowledge books.
Non-fiction.
If you will, yes. I've read a lot of fiction. I think I mentioned that in the first interview here, that I'm a really big fan of magic realism. I read during the pandemic, as the pandemic hit, like the first week of lockdown, I bought 100 Years of Solitude by García Marquez. And I was just mind blown about how beautiful that story is. Literally, I finished the book and I was crying when I was finishing the book. It has become my all-time favorite book ever. So I'm going to recommend that. But I'm not sure about quote-unquote serious books.
As we wrap up, thanks a lot for joining the conversation. I just wanted to point out, this is something that Jose Luis and I would do, not this formally, but we will do when I was back living in Cambridge. We were living like 1 minute away on foot. And we will just catch up many times for something that we used to call as well ALGO. ALGO. In Spanish, algo means something. And in English, it's like the cool word for algorithm. And those were our thesis or master's thesis meeting sessions. So I wish that we can have more of these. Maybe next one happens online in some time. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thanks to you, as usual.
And we'll see you next time. Before you go, I'll just remind you that you can go to the show notes and see links to everything that Jose Luis has mentioned, the ParametricCamp YouTube channel, his Instagram account, some of the books we've mentioned, and we just ran out of battery on the camera. So I think this is a good time to stop. Thanks a lot for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.